Before we get started with today's content, if you enjoy today's video, please consider donating to my Ko-Fi. Times have been tough recently and it's getting kinda hard to put food on the table, so all Ko-Fi donations will go to putting food on said table. Not to mention I have some free assets there, so that you should definitely check out for VTubers, and also some tunes. I do stuff. Anyway, without further ado, let's get started. Count Julius Productions. I've heard before the brain remains active for 30 seconds after death, that our nails and hair keep growing long past the time you've been under. Maybe we don't die. Not really. At least I sure didn't. There wasn't anything particularly noteworthy about me. I lived in an average house, was in an average relationship, had an average job. I still remember driving to the office one afternoon, maybe just a little more tired than usual. I filled out some paperwork, replied to some emails. At some point, I think I dozed off on my desk. I woke up in a narrow wooden box, dropping flowers all over the ground as I sat up because they'd been all around me. I remember the way my husband looked at me, his eyes red with tears and wide with shock. Other people scattered around, some stepping back slowly, and others screaming. "Dear, what's going on?" We contacted the hospital. There must have been some sort of mistake, but they said there wasn't. I had no heartbeat, no pulse, no vital signs of any sort. I was dead, but at the same time I wasn't. They made a series of exams and then a load of phone calls to so many people from so many places, until finally someone called back from somewhere in Denmark where they had a couple more cases like mine kept under custody. And from then on, my life wasn't normal anymore. I took part in so many tests and examinations I've lost count. Blood tests, urine, spinal fluid, MRI scans, you name it. I don't know how it started. None of us knew. Maybe it was a virus outbreak like happens in so many movies, or some sort of fungus. Maybe it was a mutation of some sort. But maybe we were always like this, and nobody knew until it was too late. At first, there wasn't much externally wrong with us. At least, not enough for a stranger on the street to notice. There was just a numbness at the tip of the fingers, and we couldn't keep food down, but we didn't get hungry either. Then whatever drugs or medicine they used stopped working. They just didn't flow anymore, I think. Our bodies grew a little colder every day, our movements a little more rigid, our voices a little less clear, like our vocal cords were decaying. I wondered if we were rotting from the inside out. I had video calls with my family every week. When I could no longer speak, I started typing my messages instead. And when I could no longer do that, the nurses called them for me and updated on how I was doing. Then, it was inevitable. There were 5 people sitting in a sterile white room. Others stood across from us in hazmat suits. This time there were no padded coffins or fancy flower garlands, and I knew exactly what was going on. The metal shone in their hands, and I wanted to close my eyes for what I hoped would be the last time. But I couldn't do it. I went in with my lids open. "Aim for the head," a voice came through the speakers, and then they pulled the trigger. The noise was deafening. There was pain for a second, then my mind went hazy. They laid us down together in a tomb of sealed concrete. I can't turn around, but I can feel someone's hand twitching against mine. I think it's Owen's. He could still move a little better than I did. Here's the thing that they don't tell you about death. There isn't a moment where a switch gets flipped and darkness becomes nothing, or you see light at the end of a tunnel. There isn't a moment where you meet your long-lost loved ones, or are greeted by a spectral being to guide you to the halls of whatever afterlife you believed in. But there also isn't a moment where you claw out of your grave with a mind free of thoughts and a craving for living flesh. You just continue, immobile and stuck in the shell of what you once were, the only hunger that of the worms crawling inside your guts. I was still there, long past my body's last sign of resistance. I was there when the heat seeped from my skin, and I'm still here as the marrow rots in my bones. The days shift slowly. There's nothing I can do. When nature crawls past the cement to claim me someday, I will lay still. I will still be here. I'm afraid I'll remain long past my flesh is gone, when my skull is filled with moss and flowers bloom inside my ribcage. There is no end to my story. There isn't revenge or mourning, or a moral to be learned. There is only death, and the silent infinity that comes after it. This is my story. I hope you enjoyed. Please like and subscribe, it helps the channel a lot. See you next time.